At our 23rd wedding anniversary party, my wife announced in front of 37 guests, 20 years at the same boring job, and he'll never amount to anything. In that moment, I didn't argue. I just quietly finished my beer. The next morning, when she woke up, there was a signed divorce application on her nightstand along with a business card that read, "New partnership opportunity." I thought it was time she saw how a boring man could turn his life into a textbook case of revenge. 20 years of the same boring job. He'll never amount to anything. These words came from my wife Par's mouth at our wedding anniversary celebration in front of 37 guests who had come to celebrate our supposedly successful marriage. I was holding a Spanish beer, discussing weekend hiking plans near Madrid with her brother Alfonso when she decided to turn me into the evening's entertainment. The conversation had somehow shifted to career changes, and Par saw her opportunity. "Oh, please." She waved her glass in my direction. "Look at him. 20 years at the same local bank, same credit department desk, same daily routine." The room suddenly fell silent. Her sister Elena tried to change the subject, but Par was just getting started. "I've always told him to take risks, apply for better positions, maybe start his own business. But no, he's content with mediocrity." She paused dramatically. 20 years at the same boring job. He'll never amount to anything. Awkward laughter followed. You know that kind of laughter when people don't know whether to join in or pretend they didn't hear. Par's college friends nervously giggled. My brother-in-law, Alfonso, stared at his shoes. Par's mother even shook her head disapprovingly, but then nodded at me, seemingly confirming her daughter's assessment. I didn't react, at least not outwardly. I took a sip of beer, politely nodded, and let her continue. My point is, if he had a little ambition, our lives could be so much better. Look at the Gomez couple. She pointed toward our neighbors who weren't even at the party. Mr. Gomez started 3 companies. 2 failed, but the third made them millionaires. That's courage. And this one, she pointed at me again, just like playing it safe. Her voice carried that tone she had perfected over the years. That condescending tone, the kind that made everything sound like gentle advice when it was actually a direct attack. "Honey," her friend Aurora tried to intervene. "Perhaps we should talk about something else." "No, it's fine." Par continued. "He knows I'm right. Don't you, dear?" She looked at me expectantly, waiting for me to defend myself or agree with her assessment. I calmly put down my beer. "You're absolutely right," I said. "Some people really do need to make changes." She smiled, thinking she'd won some kind of victory. See, he understands. But I wasn't finished. The key is recognizing when something isn't working anymore and having the courage to walk away, even if it means leaving behind something you've invested 20 years in. This double meaning wasn't lost on everyone, but Par was so wrapped up in her moment of triumph, she didn't notice. To new opportunities and better partnerships, she laughed, raising her glass. "I'll drink to that," I responded, finishing my beer. The party continued for another 2 hours. She occasionally made comments, each one designed to reinforce her point about my lack of ambition. When her cousin mentioned his promotion, she said, "It must be nice to work with people who actually want to advance." When someone discussed their vacation plans, she mentioned, "We always go to the same lakeside cabin because some people don't like change." I watched it all happen with a strange detachment. 23 years of marriage, and for the first time, I truly saw her. Not the woman I fell in love with, not the partner I thought I would spend my life with, but someone who had clearly been keeping score and found me wanting. The worst part wasn't even the public humiliation. It was realizing this probably wasn't the first time she had talked about me this way. I could imagine how many conversations with friends where at the mention of my name, she would roll her eyes. At 10 o'clock, the last guest left. Everyone hugged and thanked us for a wonderful evening, though I noticed several gave me those sympathetic looks you give someone after a funeral. "That went well," she said, kicking off her high heels in the living room. "I think everyone had a good time." I was putting glasses in the dishwasher. "Yes, quite entertaining." She completely missed my sarcasm. "I'm exhausted. I'm going to bed." She paused at the stairs. "Could you finish cleaning up? I know you like having everything neat and orderly." Another little dig. Another reminder of how predictable and boring I apparently was. "Of course," I said, "I'll take care of everything." She went upstairs, probably already planning the next day's activities, completely unaware she had just hosted her last anniversary party as my wife. I finished cleaning the kitchen, turned off the lights, and sat in my home office. For the first time in 23 years, I was planning something that would absolutely shock her. At 11:15 p.m., she was already snoring. That satisfied snore of someone who's had too much wine and publicly humiliated their spouse. I sat in my office until 2 a.m., not angry, just focused. I opened my laptop and drafted a resignation letter, professional and decisive. After 23 years of service, I hereby submit my resignation, effective immediately. Recent performance evaluations have made it clear that my contributions are no longer valued. I believe pursuing new opportunities is in both parties' best interests. I printed it out, signed it, and placed it in an envelope. Next, I pulled out our financial records, bank statements, investment accounts, retirement funds. 23 years of shared assets spread across my desk. The picture was clear. My boring job had sustained the comfortable lifestyle she took for granted. At 3 a.m., I was researching divorce attorneys. I found 3 highly rated lawyers and sent consultation emails. I also organized funds, not hiding them, just transferring money to accounts she rarely checked. An emergency account seemed appropriate in this situation. This was the most peaceful moment I had felt in years. No anger, just cold clarity, like finally waking from a dream. I reflected on her patterns over the years. Comments disguised as jokes. The way she would sigh when I talked about work. Countless times she suggested I should aim higher while enjoying all the benefits of my stable income. At 4 a.m., I received preliminary responses from some lawyers who were willing to meet soon. I closed my laptop and designed something special. A business card, new partnership opportunity, valuing potential on the front, my contact details on the back with serious inquiries only. I printed 50 of them on cardstock. At 5:15 a.m., she was still snoring. I showered, dressed, and had breakfast. This was my last breakfast in this house as her husband. I left at 7:30 a.m. as usual. But before that, I placed the resignation letter on her nightstand right next to her phone. I also slipped a business card into the envelope. Driving felt different. Every familiar street looked the same, but felt completely changed. At lunchtime, I met with a lawyer who specialized in strategic divorces. "You seem extraordinarily prepared," she said, reviewing my documents. "I'm always thorough. Apparently, it's one of my boring qualities." She laughed. "Boring? People rarely walk into my office this organized." We discussed the process, timeline, and potential outcomes based on our assets. The lawyer also mentioned that in Spanish divorce cases, public humiliation doesn't directly affect property division, but could serve as evidence of marital misconduct when determining alimony. I returned home at 5:30 p.m., right on schedule. Her car was in the driveway. Lights were on. I could hear her on the phone, her voice tense and worried. 5:42 p.m. She'd had 10 hours to discover the letter. Time to see how my predictable wife would handle something completely unexpected. I walked through the front door at precisely 5:45 p.m. She was pacing in the living room, phone pressed to her ear, my crumpled resignation letter in her other hand. "No, Mom, I'm not overreacting. This is serious." She heard me come in and looked up. "I have to go. He's back." She hung up and held up the letter like evidence in court. "What is this supposed to be? Some kind of joke?" Her voice carried that forced laugh people use when trying to convince themselves something isn't real. I put my keys on the counter and loosened my tie. "It's exactly what it looks like, a resignation letter for our marriage." She waved the business card and this ridiculous partnership opportunity thing. "You made it clear last night that I lack ambition and will never amount to anything. I'm simply following your advice and seeking better opportunities." She stared at me as if I'd started speaking a foreign language. I was just joking around. People say things at parties, you know? I wasn't being serious. Jokes don't last 20 years, nor are they made in front of 37 guests to turn me into a laughingstock. That wasn't a joke. That was your honest assessment of me. I went to the kitchen and opened a beer. The same brand I'd been drinking for years. Another boring and predictable choice. "Obviously, you're being ridiculous." She followed me saying, "I just made a few comments. It's not a big deal. Couples tease each other. Teasing happens between equals. What you did was different. I took a sip. You publicly evaluated my worth as a husband and found me lacking. So, I'm accepting that evaluation. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her expression changing. Who have you told about this? Told what? Your sister Elena just texted asking if everything is okay between us. People are talking. I shrugged. News travels fast in small circles. Maybe people remember what you said last night. She sat down heavily at the kitchen table. This is insane. We've been married for 23 years. You can't resign over one bad night. One bad night. I leaned against the counter. What about when you introduced me as Spain's most reliable man at the company picnic and everyone laughed? Or when you told your book club I was allergic to risk? Or last month when you said I had the entrepreneurial spirit of a cactus? These details I had been keeping in my heart for years. Those are just she stopped. I say things when I'm frustrated. They don't mean anything. They mean everything. It means you've been assessing our partnership for years and broadcasting your disappointment to anyone willing to listen. My phone rang. I glanced at the screen. The law firm. Excuse me. I need to take this. You dare answer that call? Just try it, she said, but I was already walking to my office. The call was brief, confirming tomorrow's appointment and inquiring about asset documents. Professional and efficient. When I returned, she was sitting where I'd left her, staring at the business card. You actually made business cards? She asked quietly. I believe in professional presentation, even for career transitions. This isn't a career transition. This is our marriage. The same principles apply. When a partnership isn't working, you explore other options. She suddenly stood up. Stop talking about business transactions. We have a life together, a house, friends, and common history. We have assets and social connections, but a life together. I shook my head. Partners respect each other. They don't make each other into punchlines. Fine. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said those things. There. Are you happy now? I studied her face. You're not sorry you said those things. You're just sorry. There are consequences. That's not true. Then why, after finding the letter, was your first call to your mother instead of apologizing to me? She opened and closed her mouth twice. You called her because you're concerned about practical issues, how this affects you, what people will think, whether you can talk me out of it. I headed toward the stairs. I'm going to pack my things. I'll stay elsewhere while we legally resolve this. You can't just leave. I stopped on the third step. Watch me. Where will you go? That falls under the new opportunities category. Didn't you read the card? 20 minutes later, I had a suitcase packed and was walking to my car. She stood in the doorway watching, probably thinking I would change my mind. Is this really happening? She called out. I opened the car door. You wanted someone ambitious, risk-taking, someone who makes bold moves. Congratulations, you got what you wanted. I stayed that night at my colleague Diego Sanchez's place. He had gone through his own divorce 2 years earlier and understood the importance of a quiet sofa and no questions. I set her number to silent and directed all communication to email. She called 16 times after that. The first email arrived at 6 a.m. We need to talk. This is too extreme. The second arrived at 8 a.m. I found a counselor. We can work through this. By noon, 7 more had arrived, each one escalating from rational to desperate to angry. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I used my lunch break to finalize documents with the lawyer. Clear, efficient, without drama, just as she always said I like things. The real breakthrough came Thursday evening when I stopped by the house to get more clothes. She was waiting in the kitchen prepared with a whole speech. I've been thinking, she carefully began. You were right about some things. I could have been more supportive. I continued folding shirts into my duffel bag. I talked to my sister Elena. She says marriage counseling worked for them. We could try it. Counseling requires 2 people willing to solve a problem together. You want to solve the problem of me leaving? That's different. Don't be sarcastic. I'm trying here. I stopped packing and looked directly at her. Are you really trying, or trying to control a situation that slipped away? I want to save our marriage. Why? The question caught her off guard. Because we're married. Because we love each other. Do we love each other? Because love usually includes respect, and respect doesn't include public humiliation for entertainment value. She sat down heavily. It wasn't meant to be humiliating. People were laughing at me. Not with me. They were laughing when you sacrificed me for your amusement. You're taking this too seriously. I zip my suitcase. Then explain why your friend Aurora called my office today to apologize for laughing. Explain why your brother Alfonso texted that he felt uncomfortable at the party. Explain why your mother left 2 voicemails saying she was embarrassed by your behavior. Her face paled. Aurora called you. Evidently, some people can recognize inappropriate behavior, even if you can't. I walked toward the door, but she followed. Wait, what exactly did Aurora say? She said after thinking about it, she realized how cruel it was. She said if her husband were publicly treated that way, she'd die of shame. She leaned against the wall. She said cruel. Her exact words were cruel and unnecessary. But I'm sure she's just overreacting, too. She lost her fight then. For the first time since this happened, she looked truly shaken. I had no idea people saw it that way. How did you think they'd see it? 37 people watching you systematically tear down your husband's character. What reaction did you expect? I thought, she paused. I thought they would agree with my view that you needed more ambition. So, you weren't joking. You were building consensus, trying to validate your disappointment in me. She didn't answer, which was answer enough. My phone buzzed. Text from the lawyer. Documents ready to sign tomorrow. Proceeding as planned. I reply, good. Who's that? She asked. My new business partner. Responsive, professional, just the kind of person who values clear communication. My lawyer, I added. Someone who takes my concerns seriously and respects me. A novel concept, I know. I open the front door. I'll be back Saturday to get the rest of my things. If you want to discuss asset division, have your lawyer contact mine. Your lawyer? You actually hired someone? I told you I was exploring new opportunities. Ambitious people follow through. They go all the way. This is crazy. We can fix this. I paused in the doorway. Fix what? Fix the problem that you don't respect me. Fix the problem that you've been broadcasting your disappointment to friends and family for years. Fix the problem that you think apology means finding better ways to hide your contempt. That's not. It is exactly that. You're not sorry for feeling this way about me. You're only sorry I found out and took action. I got into my car, rolled down the window. That business card wasn't a joke. I'm actually accepting applications for new partnerships from people who appreciate reliability, consistency, and yes, even predictability. It turns out for the right person, these are valuable qualities. Her final email arrived at midnight. Fine. If you want to throw away 23 years over one stupid comment, that's your choice, but don't expect me to make it easy for you. I forwarded it to my lawyer with a note. Client appears to be shifting to hostile negotiation tactics. Please handle accordingly. Some partnerships end with mutual respect and understanding. Others end with lawyers and evidence files. She had clearly chosen her preferred divorce style. Fine by me. I was always better at business transactions. Anyway, 2 weeks into our separation, she started calling. Her sister Elena called it crisis PR. I called it panic. Her friend Aurora told me about the first call. She wanted to know if I really thought what she said was that bad. When Aurora said yes, Par became defensive, saying you're overreacting. Her brother Alfonso was more direct when he called me. She's telling people you're going through some midlife crisis and abandoned your family for no reason. I told him that wasn't how I saw it. But the real wake-up call came from an unexpected source. While having lunch downtown, her yoga instructor, Isabel Garcia, approached me. I had met her a few times at social events. I hope you don't mind me saying this, she began, but I'm glad you finally stood up for yourself. Excuse me? She talks about you in class all the time. Always complaining that you never try new restaurants, don't go on exotic vacations, that you're content with everything ordinary. She sat down. To be honest, many of us felt uncomfortable. I met you a few times, and you seem like a really nice guy. She talked about our marriage in her weekly yoga class. Your job, your hobbies, your friends, always with that tone like she was trapped with someone beneath her. She would pause for a moment. I think she hoped we would sympathize with her, but most of us with husbands have stable jobs that pay the bills on time. We weren't very sympathetic. That afternoon, I got a call from our financial advisor. She wanted to discuss modifying your investment strategy, he said. Obviously, she's concerned about maintaining her current lifestyle during the divorce proceedings. What did you tell her? that any account changes require both signatures, and that in most of our arrangements you're the primary account holder. He paused. She seemed surprised by this information. Surprised by what? She hadn't realized how much of your joint financial stability was tied to your income and planning. She asked if there were other accounts she didn't know about. Friday evening, my colleague mentioned seeing her at the Mercedona supermarket checking job listings on her phone in the parking lot. She looked stressed, he said, constantly making calls, then getting frustrated. The pattern became clear. 23 years of stable income had allowed her to build a lifestyle she couldn't maintain on her own. The boring job she mocked had been funding her freedom to criticize it. Par's sister, Elena, called me directly the following Tuesday. She's handling this badly, she said. She thought I would cool down and come home. This has nothing to do with cooling down. I know. I was at the party. What she said was wrong. A brief silence. She's been calling everyone who was there, trying to get them to say it wasn't that bad. What are they saying? Most people are avoiding her calls. Those who answer are being very honest about how uncomfortable the situation was, including me, especially me. I told her she crossed the line, and you have every right to end this. That weekend, I returned to collect more things from the house. She was waiting with a new strategy. I've been thinking carefully about what you said regarding respect and partnership. She began cautiously. I continued putting books into boxes. Maybe I have taken you for granted. Your stability, your income, the way you handle everything, so I don't have to worry. Interesting perspective. I called my cousin about that job opening at her company. It's a bit late to start, but at least it's an opportunity. I looked up at her. You're looking for work? Well, I may need to prepare for divorce. She said this as if the idea had never occurred to her before. 23 years of marriage, and you never considered what would happen if you had to support yourself. I never thought. We were supposed to be together forever. Permanent partnerships require maintenance, like respect and appreciation. She sat on the sofa watching me pack. I really don't think what I said at the party was that serious, but you meant it. That's the difference. Maybe I did, but I didn't intend to hurt you. I sealed a box and labeled it. You meant to entertain yourself at my expense. Mission accomplished. The worst part, she said quietly, is everyone's asking me what I'm going to do now. About money, about the house, about everything. I realize I don't know. That's what happens when you spend decades criticizing the person providing your security. I never saw it as security. I saw it as getting by. I stopped packing. That's your problem. You saw my stability as a limitation, not a foundation. And now you get to experience life without that foundation. Her phone rang. She looked at it, then rejected the call. That's the third person today who won't talk to me. Those people from the party. Maybe they're embarrassed for you, or they're taking my side. There are no sides, only consequences. I put the last box in my car. She was again standing in the doorway, just like the first night I left. So this really is the end. 23 years ended because I said you were boring. It ended because you spent 23 years believing I was boring and shared that belief with everyone we know. That party was just the public finale. What if I changed? The question caught me off guard. Change for whom? Me? Because that ship has sailed. Change for yourself. That's between you and your conscience. I got in my car one last time. To be honest, boring turned out to be exactly what I needed to be. Boring enough to plan ahead, save money, and hire a good lawyer. Boring enough to document everything and make informed decisions. I started the engine. Boring enough to recognize when it was time to leave. 6 months later, the divorce was finally completed. Clean, efficient, exactly as she always said. I like things boring. I kept the house. She got half the liquid assets and 3 years of alimony. Her lawyer had pushed for permanent support, but my years of documented public disrespect made that argument difficult to sustain. The settlement meeting was brief. She signed the papers without once looking at me. Is this really what you wanted? She asked as we left the courthouse. This is what you created. That was our last conversation as husband and wife. The aftermath played out predictably when someone spends years broadcasting their contempt and suddenly faces consequences. Things happen. Her friend, Aurora, stopped by my office a month after the divorce. I thought you should know. She said she's struggling. Part-time work became full-time, but she's barely making rent. She's in a small studio apartment in the city. Can't afford anything bigger. Aurora paused. She always said she never expected you would actually go through with it. What did you tell her? Evidently, she didn't know you well enough. The social impact came swiftly and predictably. Our mutual friends had to choose sides, and most chose the one who hadn't publicly humiliated their spouse for years. Her book club stopped inviting her. Her yoga class became awkward as the other students began avoiding her. Her brother Alfonso called me 6 months after the divorce. She asked me to ask you something. He said, I'm listening. She wants to know if you'd consider reconciliation. She says she's learned a lot from this experience. What did you tell her? Learning experiences are expensive, and some lessons can't be undone. Smart man. She's struggling with work. It turns out being out of the job market for 23 years makes it hard to find decent employment. That's unfortunate. She also mentioned dating isn't going well. Apparently, men her age want women who bring something other than complaints about their ex-husbands to the table. I almost felt sorry for her almost. In truth, I was doing well. The house was peaceful. My daily routine was as predictable as I liked it. I started taking woodworking classes on weekends, joined a hiking group, and, yes, even tried some new Spanish restaurants, but the biggest change was internal. For the first time in decades, I wasn't carefully managing someone else's emotions or dealing with someone else's disappointment in my choices. 8 months after the divorce, I met Amelia, a librarian who appreciated quiet evenings, steady jobs, and men who kept their word. Apparently, these were revolutionary concepts. You're very reliable, Amelia said after our 3rd date. Is that a problem? It's refreshing. My last boyfriend called predictability the enemy of passion. As it turns out, unpredictability was just code for unemployment and irresponsibility. We've been together a year now. She finds my work interesting, asks me about my day, and has never once implied I lack ambition. She appreciates how I manage finances, plan trips, and yes, even pack the same lunch every day. It's wonderful, she tells her sister. Being with someone who has his life together, her sister laughed. Careful, that sounds dangerously like settling. No, Amelia replied. Settling is being with someone who makes you feel bad. This is exactly the opposite. Last month, I ran into my ex-wife Par at the supermarket. She looked older, tired. The confidence she had displayed at our anniversary party was gone. You look well, she said. I am well. I hear you're dating someone new. Yes. Is she better than me? I consider the question for a moment. She's different. She appreciates things you never valued. Like what? Consistency, reliability, a partnership without performance reviews? She nodded slowly. I've been thinking about that night, that party. If I could take back those words. You can't. Honestly, I'm glad it happened. Glad. It forced me to recognize something I'd been ignoring for years. That I deserve better than someone who viewed my strengths as weaknesses. I picked up my shopping cart and started to move away. Was I really that bad? She called after me. I paused and looked back at her. You made me the punchline of your anniversary party. You spent decades making me feel I hadn't lived up to what you wanted me to be. Then when I stopped trying, you acted surprised. I was wrong. I know you were wrong, but being wrong doesn't erase 23 years of damage. So what now? Now you figure out who you are without someone to criticize. And I continue being exactly who I've always been, with someone who appreciates me. I walked away one last time. That boring man with a steady job and predictable routine did what she said he would never do. I took the biggest risk of my life, made the most decisive move, and succeeded. As it turned out, I was more ambitious than either of us had realized. I just needed the right partnership to show it. What did you think of this story? Let us know your thoughts on this video in the comments below. And if you enjoy our content, please subscribe to the Echo Tales channel for more stories like this one.